The views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Wise Q95 FM radio. Wise Q95 FM radio has not been able to independently verify the factual correctness or the allegations and statements made during the course of this program and cannot vouch for their accuracy. Therefore, Wise Q95 FM radio will not accept any responsibility or liability for the statements or allegations made in the course of this program.
All right, folks. Good evening, one and all. Yes, we are here after a couple weeks. The CCM program, Patriot Voices on Q. We are here for yet another Friday evening program. All right, and we are in the month of November. Today will be the 8th day of November 2024, and I am your host for tonight's program, and my name is John Blanchard. I had difficulties getting in contact with Washburn Coffee, but I did inform him or reminded him that this evening is our program, but his telephone has some issues and I could not get him. I'm just hoping that he's locked in on Q95 so he can find his way in the studios to join me right here on Q95. By about 6:30, 6:45 thereabout, we'll be linking up with Dr. Dion George, and hopefully later in the evening, we will hook up with our dear brother David C. Joseph. But as said, Lloyd is unable to join us this evening as he's not feeling 100%, and so he took a break. All right. So just to let you know what we have this evening to discuss. Well, we have our spiritual message, thanks to Mrs. Jimena Vidal Valentine. So we will hear that in a while. And we'll also play a short audio from a so-called pastor. I refuse to call him pastor because I really can't understand why a pastor would have such a prayer or say such things in the name of prayer. So we'll have a short chat on that. We don't just spend too much time on it. I mean, we know exactly what this guy's motives are. And okay, we have a short audio from Mr. Louis Robinson. Very short again, 1 minute. And we'll be discussing a little about the U.S. elections, and Dr. Dion George will take the lead on that. We're talking about the U.S. elections and to juxtapose it against our own local elections here in Dominica. All right, so that should be good to the 8 p.m. Time. And so we do hope that you can stay with us until the 8 o'clock hour. All right, folks, so wherever you're listening from, let me just welcome you on board the Concerned Citizens Movement program, Patriot Voices on Q. And be it in Scottshead, be it in Capuchin or Granby, Calibishi, St. Joe, Vickers, wherever you're listening from, Point Michelle, welcome on board and do enjoy the rest of the program. All right, so let us just welcome the presence of God in our midst as we always do. And following that, we will have our greetings list. We'll have a short roll call and the spiritual message, and then we'll go straight into the other matters which I just outlined earlier on. All right? So please take a listen at this time.
Down on my knees, I found my Jesus. Down on my knees, I found my Lord. It wasn't on the mountain, Lord in the valley.
All right, and while we listen to the song, I'd probably just call out the greetings list. I know I've not given you guys a shout in some time, so let me just call out these names. And let me also inform you that our next program, our next scheduled program, will be the last Friday in the month. Okay, the last Friday. So please remember, it is the second Friday and the last Friday every month. So today is the second Friday. All right, so the last Friday will be the 29th of November. Okay, so not next week, 15th, not the following week, but the last Friday. All right. All right. So let's put this call up and the greetings list before we continue. All right. So first and foremost on my list is of course my dear daughter, my princess, Kimaya, and some persons ask me if I have other children. Yes, I do have other children. But they're all adults, so I kind of put more focus on my last daughter, which is just 14 years old. Right? And of course, her mom, Kedika, Auntie May at Salisbury, Delbert Blanchard and his wife in St. Martin, Auntie Martha, Tyree Spitz, Baby and family, also at Tyree Spitz, Jennifer Christopher, Brother Angelo Allen, Urban Long and family. Good evening to you guys. Also have the Foy family in Colibistry. We also Miss Francilia Isaac of Belt Royal. That's our dear little granny that I always say hi and hello to. So Miss Francilia Isaac, I hope you are feeling a little better. I actually went to visit our dear granny on Tuesday. That was the public holiday. On Tuesday, I spent a few minutes there with her, a little chit chat, brought back her memories and so on. And she remembered me very well. She's 91 and very strong lady. So, Miss Francilia, good evening to you. I hope everything is okay. We also have John, Miss Ernestine Pelty. We have Matt, that's Matt's mother. This Jennifer Xavier. Just one second, folks. All right, sorry for that little break there. So we have Miss Jennifer Xavier. We have Mr. Christian in Puri, Rash Brigo, Idi Faswa, the Tegas man. We have our dear brother Dorian, Mr. Whitney Louis. I've not seen or heard you in the time. You and the wife, good evening. Moving Blanchard, aka Kawi. He too is locked in and listening to Jennifer at this time. Cyrus Raphael, that's another Shala Point, but he lives in the States. Brother James and Daryl from Good Hope. Mr. Lionel Lafayette, big time severe. Martin John Baptist, aka Door, up in La Pointe. Alison Pelty and Lover Girl in the Boston and New York area. Roy Tavernier up in Soufriere. Sandra Smith and Cressida. Akela, Dana, Jessica, Nola Michelle, Kalunda, Manu, all these guys from Tyree Spitz. Our dear sister Judith Dover from Gotter Village. Susanna Rule, Maureen, Mr. Lou Robinson, Lofty, Earl Bruno, all these guys, Dion, George, Mary, Bowie, Arundel Thomas, Bob Marley, Joel Joseph. That's just a few of our CCM members. So good evening to you guys. I hope you are okay. That's just to call out a few of our good doctors. Of course, there are many more, but just to highlight a few of them. Dr. Thompson Fountain, political leader for the UWP. You have Dr. Dale Dangleben, again, a Jala Point. Dr. Sam Christian, Irvin Pascal, Dr. Hazel Ricketts, Dr. Irvin Andre, Dr. Thomas from Wesley, Dr. Hendricks Paul. So like I said, just to highlight a few of our good doctors. My friend Jill Hoodman, we have Edith Abraham in the USA, Val Ferry in Point Michelle, Mindy on High Street, Timeless Queen, Vivi, that's our beautiful flower girl. Of course, I've always seen Mindy in town, selling her flowers and so on, her plants. Very patriotic young lady. Sally from Warner, Jumin, Morris from Citroni, another stalwart, Sandra Sylvester, better known as Missan, Robinson Charles of Campbell, better known as Small or Tiddley, Angel and Abigail, Ivan Nicholas, Dion Filbert, Brian Linton, Tony Sis and family Tutola, David C. Joseph, our dear brother and member of CCM, Ronald Marie, Merlin Bruno, Ifadi Underwood, all these people are from Bowie, but they live in the USA. The Munseria guys, Buju and others, Fafa, Malo Anita, Papa Asposala. This is well locked in, always locked in, and and listening to Q95. London, I'll come and see you shortly, all right? I hope you are taking good care of yourself. Agatha Samuel, better known as Carrot, the Bruno family in Port Michelle, John Frampton, Mark Power, Janice or Hermia Bruno, Margareta, Craig, Tony, all these guys in the Raven area at Lord Bow. We also have our partner there, Bishop, up there in Loubier. I know he's locked in and looking forward to this program tonight. Shirley Alan, Pape Pali, Blue and Lucille, of course, the regulars. The family members of Mr. Ralph McGraw in Luda, Myrna Louise, Nerica Tweet and Nerica T. Jessica, my good old friend. Good evening to you. I'm not too sure where you are this time, but good evening to you. Mr. Norman Chillingford, the African brother, Mrs. Dorian Francis. Auntie Bessie, I have not seen you in a while, and neither have I called you in a while too. That's very bad. So I need to call Auntie Bessie. I'll give you a shout tomorrow. Okay, Auntie Bessie? I hope everything is fine with you. Another strong little granny up in Buffalo State. Good evening to you. Fano, Mr. George, Zed Lloyd, Blessings, Michael Coppell, Mr. and Mrs. Ozzy Lewis and Emerson. Hope you guys are doing okay, and let's keep the faith. And let's keep praying for you guys for good health, to remain strong and focused, of course. Very good people, I must say. Tyrone Theophile, Anthony Scotland, better known as Willie. We also have our nurses, doctors, lawyers, or post officers, or fire officers. This is Desiree John, Norma Darampel, and your, nurse Nora Darampel, and your husband. Good evening to you guys. Hope everything's okay with you. And I hope by now Skerrit is preparing a check to pay you for your land down there in Wesley. We have Norma in New Jersey, Rachel in Gurup, Keith Matthew, Yolanda Rui and her mom, Patricia, Adelaide Paul, Olivia Philogen from Collier, lives out of Dominica, but I know she's locked in sometimes. And of course, all the other patriots, both home and abroad, let me just say pleasant good evening to you guys. All right, folks, it's now at 6:14. The lines are now open. Feel free to call in and to register your presence on our CCM program this evening.
He showed me love. Now I praise the Lord above. Down on my knees, I found my Jesus. Down on my knees, I found my Lord. It wasn't on.
Good evening, caller.
Good evening. Good to my radio, always glued to Q. That is why I knew you all were there tonight. Otherwise, I would know nothing about that.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome. And say good night. Auntie Bessie, she doing all right? Her daughter is one of her big daughters.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's so nice.
Visiting, and the daughter husband. So they're all relaxing, maybe. Auntie Bessie, good night, my darling, and all who listening tonight. Have a blessed night.
All right. Thank you very much, Lulu. All right.
Welcome.
Yes, I've not called Auntie Betsy in a while, and I must do that. So that's my little granny. Very nice. That's the lady. Auntie Betsy, I'll call you in the morning, sometime tomorrow.
Down on my knees, I found my Jesus. Down on my knees, I found my Lord. It wasn't on the mountain, not in the valley, but it was on my knees. I found my Lord. Once I was blind, I could not see the glory of Jesus, so rich and free. I've heard about him, the man of Galilee. I cried out, Lord, oh, help me, please.
Good evening, caller. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. What a surprise. I just tuned in.
All right. Yes, we're here. Lucy, we're here.
Okay.
Yeah, because you guys are forgetting it's the second Friday and the last Friday. So it's the second Friday and the last Friday every month.
Oh, okay, all right.
So today's the second Friday.
And the last one.
The last, right, that's right, 29th.
Okay.
All right, cool.
All right.
All right.
He took my hands, I held up high, and he saw the tears that I have cried. Oh, he came down and held me tight, and he said, my child, you are mine. I went down on my knees.
All right, folks, it's now 6:18 and we need to move on. So we're going to the spiritual message at this time. Let me just try to get it to the top by our dear sister down in the Portsmouth area. This is Vidal Valentine, Jimena Vidal Valentine. All right, so please take a listen at this time.
May the name of the Lord be praised.
Sorry, back top.
Shana Tova. Happy New Year, beloved. May the name of the Lord be praised in all the earth. During the 10 days of awe following Rosh Hashanah and thereafter, a clarion call goes out for all Dominican women to begin wailing loudly for all the fallen sons of the soil until the plague stops. Dominice, nous pas las play abute. Aren't we tired of crying in bottle? Let's release the prayer in Lamentations chapter 5 until the Lord remembers us. To thereby make it more applicable to our situation, superimpose Egypt with China, Assyria with Venezuela, ancestors with past leaders, Judah with Christians, and Mount Zion with Ecclesia. Beloved, let's pray. Lord, remember what happened to us. Look and see our shame. Our land has been turned over to strangers. Our houses have been given to foreigners. We have become orphans. We have no father. Our mothers have become like widows. We have to buy the water that we drink. We have to pay for the food that we use, the wood that we use. We are forced to wear a yoke on our necks. We get tired and we have no rest. We made an agreement with China. We also made an agreement with Venezuela to get enough bread. Our past leaders sinned against you, and now they are dead, and we are suffering because of their sins. Slaves have become our rulers. No one can save us from them. We risk our lives to get food. The enemy raped the women. Close quotes. Hear our prayer, O Lord, and answer us speedily. Beloved, since the dragon and its angels were thrown to the earth, the woman's children who obeyed God's commands and hold the truth are being constantly pursued by that old snake. From Genesis to Revelation, this 10-horned, 7-headed giant red dragon called Satan has led the whole world the wrong way. Revelations 12:12 declares, it will be terrible for the earth and sea because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with anger. He knows he doesn't have much time, close quotes. Incidentally, I learned that 2024 is the year of the dragon. And like a roaring lion, he is seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5:8. Between now and December, there's got to be something diabolical on his agenda. Now pay close attention to the water. He is still standing on the seashore to lay claim to the kingdom that those who are willing to worship him will reign in perpetuity. But somewhere I read that there are always those with bad instincts, move kawate. These have no problem sacrificing the welfare of all for the sake of securing their own. The idiom, beasts of prey, is the most suitable description for such persons who make victims of others as by profiting at their expense. One who is venerable, wise, cold, full of treacherous superiority. But when insecurity fuses with ego, at this juncture, the person becomes lethal, resulting in an aggressive, intimidating nature that reduces citizenry to a state of victimhood. Generally, animals of the same species scarcely eat their own like Famueche. When one takes advantage of another, it is said that a man without reason is a beast in season. This type of leadership takes away the power and confidence of a man, causing him to feel less masculine. King Ahab was under the control of the spirit of Jezebel, his spouse. Research reveals that having a tough female boss can emasculate male employees. Such being the case, who will stand with our enemy in the gates? In the battle for Dia's survival, who will take the lead when so many sons of the soil have already been weakened or emasculated? The loss of sons causes results in a decline. The loss of sons causes result in a decline of femininity known as feminization. This is for another discourse. My concentration, however, is strictly on the preservation of our sons. This death plague must cease now. A nation without sons becomes unproductive or fruitless. Governments ought to be benevolent, shielding their populations from beasts of prey, not the other way around. Only an antagonistic leader would inhibit a citizen God-given rights to electoral reform. When Israel rejected God's leadership, God, who is sovereign over all, gave them their heart's desire, as noted in 1 Samuel 8. Prophet Samuel thought this was a bad idea, but God told him to listen to the people and do what they tell you. Leaders, even if someone has died and made you king, you can never be bigger than God. So listen to everything the people of Dominica are saying to you regarding electoral reform. Despite the antagonistic nature of the new king outlined by Samuel in 1 Samuel 8:10-18, Israel maintained their persistency and their request was met. And we should do similarly. If we peruse the scripture closely, we will soon conclude that the current leader embodies all the negative traits of that ancient king, thus fulfilling scripture in plain view in our generation. By amplifying our dissent and lifting our voices louder to God in prayer, He may answer us this time around, seeing He told Israel, "You will cry because of the king you chose, but the Lord won't answer you at that time." Close quotes. The New World Order depopulation conspiracy is no secret, but Genesis 12:1-3 defies it, as God promises that Abraham's descendant would multiply as the stars in the sky. The dragon's plan to subjugate the world is real, but it won't be realized. The dragon has been after the chosen seed for eons, but per Jeremiah 29:11, God's plan for man nullifies it. Pharaoh, in his warped mind, chose rather to cut his nose to spite his face, lacking every sense of reasoning for national advancement, this being the same in our case. You will note in Exodus 1, Pharaoh's insecurity outweighed his ego when he told the Hebrew nurses to kill every baby boy. But they didn't obey him. They trusted God. Thus he commanded his own people to kill the newborn sons of Israel. For it is written in the law of the Lord, when a mother's first baby is a boy, he shall be called special for the Lord. Close quotes. Per Matthew 2:13 and Acts 7, Christ escaped to Egypt because Herod ordered that all the baby boys up to age 2 in Bethlehem be killed. Hence Matthew 2:18, Jeremiah 31:15 state, a sound was heard in Ramah, bitter crying and great sadness. Rachel cries for her children, and she cannot be comforted because her children are gone. Close quotes. Note the distinct contrasts in scenarios. Genesis 30 verse 1 states, frustrated by her childlessness, Rachel cried out to Jacob, give me children or I shall die. Close quotes. One scenario refers to a mother bereaved of her offsprings. In another scenario, the sons were taken into captivity. In the last scenario, that mother preferred death over barrenness. It is to be noted that the absence of sons, that is, real men, ultimately results in the death of a nation. As John the Baptist said to his generation per Matthew 3:2, Acts 2:38 and Acts 3:19, change your hearts and lives because God's kingdom is now very near. When the truth of his kingdom reigns in us, his glory will be released over all the land. We will all experience times of refreshing and spiritual rest if we choose to serve the Lord. Thanks again for listening. Peace.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Jimena Vidal Valentine. I want to thank you immensely for doing quite a fantastic job. And of course, without any P. Call that pro bono, eh? Pro bono. And I've been doing that for what, the last few years now? I must check and see when you sent the very first one to me. Yeah, it's a few years now we have been doing that. And I believe you take pleasure as well in doing it. And so we want to thank you. Let me also say good night to our scribe, wherever you are. We have not gotten anything from you in a while, and we are hoping that you can prepare something for us very soon. Particularly all that talk of snap election and so on. If the chance that announcement is made anytime from now, some writings from you would be appreciated. Okay, Mr. Scribe? But thank you very much, and wherever you are, let me just wish you all the best. All right, Zay Manuel, what's happening, partner? I'm not seen my partner for a while. I suppose he will come on board at the right time. All right, just to make a few quick comments on Mrs. Valentine's message tonight. She's pleading with Dominicans to release the prayer publicly and stop crying secretly. Okay, and of course, it touched a bit on leadership, and I believe that we are suffering because of bad decisions by our leaders. We have gotten involved with diplomatic relations with a number of nations, a number of countries, whose leaders themselves has no respect for the citizens' rights and life. In Dominica, we see similar trends where the police will openly violate citizens' rights to protest. And two scenarios come to mind. We had the bus drivers protest action, and most recently we had the truckers protest action, where we saw in your face police brutality by a handful of scared goons. All right, I believe he must have handpicked those. Because generally, most of the policemen just stand by quietly. Some of them would obviously sit under a tree and so on, and minding their business, so to speak. But there are selected few who has that mission, that specific mission to brutalize their brothers and sisters in this country. Our land, as Mrs. Valentine said, has been turned over to strangers. Our leader has basically destroyed Dominica. Period. He has destroyed Dominica. Our land has been turned over to strangers. Our houses given to foreigners. The available jobs on island are given to foreigners. And the Prime Minister has the audacity, to boast that over $214 million left Dominica from foreigners working in Dominica. So you have all the jobs. Apartment buildings, hotels, schools, I heard even bus stops. Everything goes to foreigners. Our truckers, as we speak, are on bended knees asking for work, while the big Chinese trucks are busy working. That's the kind of leadership we have here. We talk about leadership is everything. That's the kind of leadership we have in Dominica right now. We have billions of dollars from the sale of our passports that are kept outside of our treasury and controlled by a foreigner. We have become slaves in our own land. And we can also say that we have become a colony of China. So why do we boast about independence? The reality is we are a colony of China. Sad situation in this country. Mrs. Valentine is asking a very pertinent question. Who will take the lead in the battle for Dominica's survival when so many sons of the soil has already been weakened or emasculated? In other words, the part of what they call Chatoué, yeah. Your Chatoué, you're in. They have been emasculated. Who will take the lead for Dominica's survival? Because the real men seems unable to do it. And as Ms. Valentine also said, that in the absence of real men, ultimately it will result in the death of a nation. And we can see it here. It's already happening. And I just hope and pray that we have the time to rescue our land before that actually happens. It's concluded by sounding a stern warning that we need to change our hearts and lives because God's kingdom is now very near. So folks, we need to serve God. We need to serve God. We need to pray. We need to bring back that nation. Men, women, we are calling all citizens of this country to do what you have to do to rescue this blessed land. With these few words, I'll take a pause. Right, folks? So we're going to have a musical, play the music for you. You can call in at this point. You can call in, and our next topic will be, we will hear a short audio from what I refer to as so-called pastor, have a short discussion. I'm hoping that Dr. Dion George will appear shortly on the screen, so I can link him up to this big program tonight. All right, so let's take a little listen at this time. Good evening, caller. You're right on cue.
Asking who will take the lead when you have men outside you're folding like Mese Marie. I'm asking who will take the lead. A lot of men is good.
What is Mese Marie again?
What?
What is Mese Marie? That is leave at the thought and closes, is that?
Mese Marie?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about Mese Marie?
Not quite.
I cannot bush on by the time you
touch it, right, yes. It closes, yes, right.
Closing while a lot of men outside there, so they are.
I thought so as well, yeah.
It may be far was on where she was supposed to be, and Blessing was supposed to be. Where is there? Maybe three of us could take the lead.
Mm-hmm.
but I alone can't take the lead.
That's right. That's right. We need more workers in the
We
house.
need people,
Yeah.
we really need people to stand up and fight for our country. Right now, we have Chinese making obia in our country. Chinese, I know who give Chinese cock, black and red cock.
I saw the
And
video.
Chinese have a lot of cock passing on their dumps.
On trucks, yes. I saw that. I saw that.
Excavator.
I saw that.
So see, with serious trouble in our country. In what other country Chinese could go and do that? If not Dominica.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of deal stop or your stupidity and them Chinese going to that have Chinese doing what the hell they want in our country. But time will tell. Have a blessed night.
That's right. Time will tell. And remember when the same guy who said time will tell, he also said there's no more time to tell. So let's be careful, folks. All right.
Anybody with some red fender, walk across a bag of sand, walk across a gully, we stopping them this year. Look it. Hey, let me go. It's sucking left, it's sucking right, anything inside. I always understood that my country was doing good. Whoa. Right and let cheese sucked up my country juices. Well, they sucked it very well. For their personal gain, you'll listen say over again. IMF never had to come down here to advise us on how we should take care. We shut up out to kill a fly flew away and the damn go die. I wonder why. They suck up the country, dry blood. They suck up the country, dry. Oh, mama, why? Politicians sucking, every black man with no ambition sucking it. Like back in the sucking up civil servants, local merchants, look like who wants sucking it. Like back in the sucking it dry. They're giving away accuracy for speed, all because of our greed. But in we not to spike with faith, now it's waste man have to praise. They sucking we country, dry Lord. They sucking we country, dry.
This one is for blessings, eh? Boom. I know blessings love this one. For the blessings, good evening.
I need some holy water and a big piece of bomb. We're smoking them. We're coming through. Mama. Hey, let me go. It's sucking left, it's sucking right, anything inside. The last which I could tell, local music was selling well. Local music shops pirating wouldn't stop. Well, they pirating me well. To record we go through load while they sit down, relax and burn. Like some people just don't have a heart. Why you trying to tear musicians apart? And they're waiting everywhere like we collecting cash from the air. They suck up with country, dry blood. They suck up with country, dry blood. Yes. Music man, graphics man, Sputnik man, sucking it, like a criminal sucking it. Bootleggers, wicked fires, them baby guys sucking it, like a oh man, subunya mama. Hey, let me go. It's sucking left, it's sucking right, anything inside. The last which I could tell, local music was selling well. local music shops, pirating wouldn't stop. Well, they pirating me well. To record we go through load while they sit down, relax and burn. Like some people just don't have a heart. Why you trying to tear musicians apart? And they're waiting everywhere like we collecting cash from the air. Huh? They suck up with country, they suck up with country, drive Lord. They suck up with country, they suck up with country, drive Lord. Yes. Music man, graphics man, music man, sucking it, live up in the sucking it, bootleggers, wicked buyers, them ready guys, sucking it, live up in the sucking it, try. Man, we giving away accuracy for speed, all because of our greed. But in we know to spite we faith, now it waste, man have to praise. They sucking up the country, they sucking the country dry, Lord. They sucking up the country, they sucking with country dry. Mama, why? Watch it. Leban sukunyaki, oh yeah, leban sukunya mama. Your red lavender in the pocket. Let me see your red lavender, let me see your red lavender. Hey, leban sukunyaki, oh yeah, leban sukunya mama. Watch it. Let me go. They sucking left, they sucking right, sucking day and night. On nationals could tell, politics but real hell. It brings me so much tension, it's dividing our nation. Well, it hurts me very well. All of our one another is right now in the court. The time that we waste hurting each other, love to join hands to push our country further. We could change the leader every year, in going nowhere if we are changing here. I want you, they suck up with country, they suck up with country, dry blood. They suck up with country, they suck up with country, blood. Malicious people, self-centered people, small-minded people, sucking it, like a king, sucking desperate people, evil people, greedy people, sucking it, like a king, sucking it up. We're giving away accuracy for speed, all because of our greed. But in we know to spite we face, now it waste, man have to praise. They're sucking up the country.
Good evening, caller. You're right on cue. Good evening, caller.
Looking nice. Well, we're stuck on them. Hey, where they sucking crew on them? Where they sucking crew on them? Hey, we're mashing up the place. Get you got it. You're at the end up with flying tonight. Looking at, looking good. Hey. When they sucking crew on them, when they sucking crew on them. Looking nice. We side both. Watch it. Ayo, mama, why? Watch it. Leban sukunyaki, oh yeah, leban sukunya mama.
All right, so we're about to link up with our dear brother, Dr. Dion George. I think he should be on at this time. Dr. George, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you very much, and thanks for coming on. All right, let me say good evening to you, my brother, in a special way, and thanks for, I know you're a very busy man, for a busy schedule, and to be with us on a Friday night. We really appreciate that, and of course, the people out there are so happy to hear your voice. Your guy always has some great contributions, good information, and so we are very happy to have you on board the CCM program, Patriot Voices on Q. All right. Well, earlier on we had the spiritual message. I'm not sure if you listened, but I admit I had some comments, some brief comments on the spiritual message, and the other items that we have on the agenda, which I encouraged you earlier on, is that of a short audio from a so-called pastor. also a short audio from Mr. Louis Robinson. But I think I'm going to leave those for after, if we at all touch them. And I would like to take the lead on the U.S. elections. We recently had an election just yesterday, 2 days ago, and we all know of all the rallies and so on that took place, and all we saw the action, so to speak. And of course, Trump is back in the White House. And so I know you will have plenty more information than me about U.S. election, how it's done, and all of that. And we can also juxtapose that to our own elections here, because in Dominica, it's a simple thing. It's just 21 constituency, and whichever party wins 11, that's it. You form government. But in the U.S., it is completely different. I mean, by far, completely different than this, where they deal with electoral college votes and so on, a total of 548 out of 50 states. And you must win 270 in order to be president. So perhaps you can give us a little more information on that and your own thoughts on the recently held election.
All right. Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me here to share some of my own thoughts. Let me, first of all, recognize the Holy Spirit, who is the comforter that Christ left with us. Mr. Blanchard, when Christ left, he said, I'm going to prepare a place for you, but I will leave you with someone, and that someone is the person of the Holy Spirit. And so we give thanks. And so there are several things tonight I guess we can touch on. Of course, paramount among which is the U.S. elections and how that transformed. And then, of course, we can tie it to our region, what it means for us. And then we can also look at the Dominica political system and the way forward for our economic and socio-economic position. And so the news has been out that Donald Trump has won. And he has won Kamala Harris. He has won what is called the Electoral College, and he won it handsomely, 295 to 226. For persons who do not understand what that means, it simply means in the formation of what is called the United States, the states are part of the electoral process. And what that means is before they agreed to be a United States, they had what was called a confederation. What that means is that the individual states had their own autonomy. They had their own way of making their own laws and so forth. But when they decided to become the United States, they had a meeting. It was a meeting where they had two big agreements. I know sometimes that seems like so much information, but it's good to really get the fundamental understanding of what it means. So they came up with something which is called the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan. The Virginia Plan basically said that the states with the highest population should have the highest say. And the New Jersey Plan, they said essentially that no, if we are a small state, like New Jersey is a small state, that if we are a union, the United States, we should have equal say. So they came to an agreement, which is called the Connecticut Compromise. And that's what it is today. So there are 535 electoral.
It's 535 or 548?
Well, take your time. You have to plus 3 for Washington, D.C. Because Washington, D.C. is not a state.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's a district, but because it's the capital, they give it 3 votes.
Oh, I see.
And that 3 votes is the 3 votes for the smallest state, which is Wyoming. Okay, so you are correct. It is 338, but I was just taking my time to get there. Right. Now, I think that's important for the Dominican public and for all persons listening to understand how a U.S. president becomes president. Right. And so the New Jersey plan, essentially, you get 2 senators. So, Mr. Blanchard, I know you're a very bright guy. How many states are there in the United States?
50, I believe.
You are very correct. It's 50 states. So every state gets 2, correct?
Right.
Right. And the rest is dependent on your population. Roughly speaking, it's about 733,000 per senator. So, for example, where I live in Georgia, it is 16 electoral votes. So they have 2 senators, every state gets 2. And then based on the population, they get the rest, which is the House of Representatives. So Georgia has 16 electoral votes. California has about 53.
54.
New York has about, let's say, 31.
And New York is 28.
Right. So you see, I'm calling these numbers here, but they're about, right?
Right.
So what we need to win is 50% plus 1. If you were to divide 538 divided by 2, it would be 269. Plus 1, it would be 270. So whoever wins that wins. Okay. So if you said that California has 54, you said New York has 28. Let's say Florida has 30. Let's say North Carolina has thereabout
16.
Whoever gets 270, it would be 50% plus 1. My dear friend, Donald Trump was able to pull in 295. And Kamala Harris was only able to get 228. Now, interesting.
Doc, just stick a pin there because you said 295 and 228. But if you add it up, it's going to 523.
226.
226.
26, yeah.
Plus 295, that's 521.
Yeah, and it's because I think they're saying that Arizona is still pending.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But the decision is already clear. By far. Now there's there's something which is also called the popular vote, which most persons would be comfortable with that if one were to consider what is called a a majority democracy. The question becomes, who did most persons in the United States voted for?
Right.
Yeah. During the Hillary Clinton and the Donald Trump election, if you were to ask that question, Mr. Blanchard,
Hillary got the most votes.
Thank you very much.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So the most people in the United States voted for Hillary Clinton.
Popular vote. Yeah.
Yeah. But Donald Trump, yes. And that's why I took my time to explain the difference between the popular vote and the electoral college. So one might say, so what is the purpose? What is the sense? Well, I just did. Essentially, they are saying that the states should have a say. And they are saying that the way that they have divided it is with the Virginia plan and with the New Jersey plan, where they get 2 senators and based on the population. So in other words, that they have a say in who becomes the president of the United States.
And equal C, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty or the deepness of why a lot of persons thought that he was the weaker candidate and he won. As a political scientist, as one who teaches American government and public policy, I can tell you I could look at 3 factors. 3. There are more factors, but I think those were alarming. I have heard of pundits give their own views, but I think religion played a very big view. The reason I say, and race, now when I say race, I am not jumping to the issue of racism. I'm saying race because race is intertwined with the whole idea of religion. You see the Hispanic vote?
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest vote that a Republican has gotten in a long time. And I can tell you it's Harris, maybe her fault. I say that to say that one of the things that she really campaigned on was the whole issue of abortion. And you're aware of that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. She called it women reproductive rights.
Wow.
Two things I will say about this. It doesn't mean this is my personal opinion, nor is it my professional opinion. It is just what the law is. The law says if you were to kill a pregnant woman, Mr. Blanchard, how is it called?
I think it's a double murder, but there is some
double homicide.
Oh, there's something there. Yeah, there's some
It's
word
a
for it.
double homicide.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we are saying is that the law recognizes the living fetus.
That, of course, yeah, it is.
That's what the law recognizes. Now, the argument that there are the pro-life and pro-choice. The pro-life is the view that the Catholic Church takes, and some other religious takes, is the view that the child has a right to live. The view that Kamala Harris and some of the other ultra-liberal is that it's a woman's right to choose what she wants to do with her body. And that becomes a dubious little commodity, I would say. If you're saying if one were to kill her and the husband and the child, it's a double homicide, and then you're saying that she has a right to do it. What about the right of the child? And that's just a legal argument, all right? I'll tell you, Hispanic people are pro-life, not pro-choice. The other thing is same-sex marriage. If we were to come back to Dominica, recently there was some legislation that allowed for same-sex relationship. As far as I understand the law, I don't know if it has matriculated into same-sex marriage, but what I do understand is that it is now legal to have same-sex relationship. And I can tell you, in the United States, in a case called Lawrence versus Texas, it made that legal. Anyone who is listening and has a computer in front of them can Google it, Lawrence versus Texas, and it legalized same-sex relationship. What legalized same-sex marriage in the United States is a case called, if I can remember, it's Obergefell, Oberge, Obergefell versus Hodges, and that was in 2015. It legalized same-sex marriage. I say that to tell you that there are still a lot of Americans who are against same-sex marriage. And again, the Hispanic population, by a large margin, fits that. I would submit for your consideration, and you don't have to agree, but it's just my view, that these issues laid very heavily on that election. And then the other part of it is the economic part. For some reason, we went through a little recession. Of course, you understand very well that Mr. Joe Biden, with all due respect, fell ill and had to resign. There are those who would contend that he should have resigned earlier. And all of these intervening variables would have contributed to her losing the election, where persons, and now let me give you some points on Donald Trump. You know Donald Trump has a very filthy mouth. And I don't think he's apologetic about it. He would say things maybe I would never say, that he can grab women private parts. Yes. He would go as far as saying he could shoot someone in the middle of Manhattan and get away with it. And other things like that. I don't know if he says it in hyperbole or if he says it in jest, but he says it. But apparently the American public, and if you look at the map, which I sure you have, you can see that probably out of the 50 states, Kamala Harris probably got 11, and Donald Trump got the rest. I mean, he just swipe up America, both the popular vote. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, this is our opening view. We can look at what that means for the Caribbean, especially Mr. Blanchard, because the view that China is really, one might say, investing, or other schools of thought might argue it is colonizing the global South. I think, as one who have studied this phenomenon, that the US is quiet. I'll tell you 4 things, and then you can come back to me. The first thing I'll tell you is the Spanish-American War in 1896 thereabout, where the US claimed Mexico, the US claimed St. Thomas, the US claimed Hawaii. The US did something in 1901, and we can come back to that, which is called the Platt Agreement, where they told Cuba, I will not take you as a colony, but I will protect you. And they said, to protect you, let me put my base on your property. And they developed what is called Guantanamo Bay. And then it went further, where the US in 1824 did what they called the Monroe Doctrine, where they told Spain, they told England, they told the Portuguese who, by the way, have Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, what we call the ABC Islands, and even in St. Martin as well, there is a Dutch part. The US told them, if I ever see you send a ship through the Atlantic Ocean, I'll consider it an act of war. All these things matter to the Caribbean. Then the US went further, and they said about the good neighbor policy, and they talked about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. All these things are so much information, which is too much in the short time that we have.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
But what I can tell you is the view that the Chinese and the investment that they are making and the agreement that some of the Caribbean leaders are making, my concern is how does that disturb the US policy with the region, and how that does affect our personal, our national politics. And so these are my opening remarks.
Now, Doc, going back to the election, right? I saw a very interesting WhatsApp message earlier on, and I'm not sure how authentic it is, but the individual, I don't have it with me right. For some reason, it got lost or something. But the individual listed, I think, about 6 or 7 states, right? And he also gave the number of votes that both Trump and Kamala received in those states. But what I found very interesting is that he gave the number of Black people that did not vote in the states. And assuming that these Blacks had voted and voted for Kamala, still would have been very close, if not even edge out Trump. Because when I checked it out, it was like, I think it was about 6 states. It came to 90 electoral votes.
Yeah. So there are several commentators and analysts who have considered why she got such a low vote. Now, among women, I think she did well. Among Black males, she did terrible. And my friend, Mr. Blanchard, there's a reason why. And persons who understand American government knows the answer already before I say it. She used to be a prosecutor. And again, I mean, the way she ran that campaign, I would think that gender issues took a forefront even before economic. On her part, she was such about what she called reproductive rights. Then when she was a prosecutor in California, she was very staunch, very stringent. And a lot of Black men went to jail for whatever reason, for not paying child support and so forth. And one would submit for your consideration. Of course, I believe everybody should support their children, but there are intricacies where sometimes it's not the man's fault. Sometimes it's the woman who was in wrong, and she left. And one may argue that perhaps they both should come together and find sort of solution. But she was just so much on the woman's side. And so a lot of black men say, not happening, they're not voting for her. And so she had that sort of negative vibration, this negative view. Also, there was a negative view that she never moved away from Joe Biden economic policies. So if she was staunch, she would have said, for example, you know, I like Biden, I like him, but if I were in power, this is what I would do. And so America did not see what Obama, when he ran, he called a change. He said, yeah, it's a change. And he laid out his economic policies, his immigration policies, and it was very clear. And with her, it was not that clear. So I think we have, touched on the U.S. politics. And if you may, we can talk about certain things I heard in your introduction. I heard the view of the New World Order. I heard the lady in her prayer. Yeah. And I also heard about snap elections in Dominica once again, and we can talk about that.
Doc, before I go further, somebody just sent me the WhatsApp message, and the list that I spoke about, the states that I spoke about, the person is saying that Trump won Wisconsin by 23,000 votes, but you had 93,000 blacks that did not vote in that state. So in effect, what the person is saying that if these blacks had voted and voted for Kamala would have won that state. Okay. And they went on to list others like Florida, where Trump only won by 113,000, but 379 blacks did not vote in that state. And there are others like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia. So the number of blacks that did not vote, if that voted for Kamala, they would have won all of these. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states.
Right.
And then 1 second, that would have come out of 90 electoral votes plus a 226, which is 316. So Trump would have lost if the blacks had participated and voted for Kamala.
Right. So I want to thank the voter or the researcher for splitting hairs and also speaking hypothetically. That is, if
yes,
they had voted,
assuming,
right?
Yeah,
and that's my first point. The second point is to speak on the issue of hypothetical, which I typically do not do that, but just for discussion's sake. If one were to say, for example, yes, the data might be correct that this amount of blacks did not vote, I think we have somewhat touched gently on some of the reasons why some blacks didn't vote, but we can even advance and we can even go further and say, for example, that there is something called election apathy, or where you feel like your vote doesn't make a difference. And of course, we have touched on some of the reasons why some persons doesn't vote. There are many other things we can touch on. I just don't want to touch on too much of them. But another one is election is on a Tuesday. Typically, black people have to go to work. And yes, your work would give you time off. But some people have to clock in and etc. And if you leave, you're on your own and so forth. And that's just what it is. And I think we dealt with that. But again, the message that you receive is a hypothetical message that speaks of if persons did vote. And I typically would not comment on if, or they say if Takamuti mon. You know, yeah, it is what it is.
All right, Dr. Before we go into the more serious matters, I just want to play a short clip in there by Mr. Louis Robinson. He is a member of CCM, of course. and patriot, and let's have a short discussion on it. What you think of his what he had to say? So let us have a quick listen.
All right, absolutely, yes.
Thank you for this message. You know, I keep asking for a constructive discussion on inflation, recession, monetary and fiscal policy, macro and microeconomic policy, the financial services sector. I mean, serious discussion, not this thing talking about who sleep with who drunk, and who see wine. We have serious problem. Pound of saltfish is $20. Pound of smoked herring is 18. Pound of pig snout is $20. So what? These are the discussions we need to be having in public to put pressure on Skirt. He there and about talking about airport building. Dominicans not working. Can't buy a pound of saltfish. Come on, these are the discussions I want to hear about. I don't hear about who sleeping, who drunk, who sleeping with what. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. That's why I take myself up there down with stupid radio.
All right. So what Mr. Louis is saying, in essence, is that we need to have some real critical discussion, because so often you listen to the radio, and I'm not criticizing anybody per se, and you hear like really a kind of beefy kind of discussion going on. And so, Mr. Louis, I really want to agree with you, because these matters are critical and they need to be discussed. As a matter of fact, Mr. Louis mentioned discussions such as inflation, recession, monetary and fiscal policy, macro and micro economic policy, and the financial services sector. But I want to add a few more. I think we should start discussing things such as the high cost of living in Dominica, price control, salary increases, rate of unemployment, rate of poverty on island, medical care, sports policy. Is there sports policy in the country? Youth empowerment, tax reforms, review of the present composition of the IPO and the Electoral Commission, the appointment of judges and magistrates, DPP, all of these are people without the interference of the politicians. I think these things are very critical to be discussed, particularly the appointment of judges and magistrates and the DPP. That's critical. Our whole medical care, the whole composition of the IPU and these things, these are important topics that we need to start discussing and to put some pressure on. These are the how do you call it, the bread and butter issues. Yes, we can talk about electoral reform. It's important. I'm not saying we should put that aside, but we need to also include some of these critical topics. What do you think, Dr. Dion George?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Blanchard. And I mean, what you have given me there is what is called an intertanglement of fostering of a mouthful of topics. And there is no way we can effectively cover all of them, but we can touch just tangibly on a little bit of them.
Well, I was also talking about discipline. I'm talking about going forward.
Yes, and I think you are
talk
correct.
shows and so on, you know.
Yeah, and I think the gentleman, Mr. Robinson, he is bringing up some quite fundamental issues on macro and microeconomics. You wouldn't believe. Myrna Louis might tell you I shouldn't say it, but I recently got offered to teach macro and microeconomics at a college, studying in the spring. Also, on the other issues of inflation and tax policy, when you called me last night to discuss this program, I told you I was in class, or I have to go to class.
You have to go to class. You had to, yeah.
And the issue was really that. So let's deal with it as it applies to Dominica.
Mm-hmm.
Please do not be offended, but it was under the United Workers' Party that there was a time, Mr. Blanchard, that they could not pay their civil servants. Do you recall?
I recall hearing that rumor as to whether it was factual or not. I never made
It
my
was
business
true. And
to
if
find
any
out.
United Workers Party person want, they can call. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not criticizing the United Workers Party as a failed party, you know. In fact, there was a song by a priest that says, workers, cafe bagay tu pa tu. That was very true. Now, there are some governments who spend a lot in terms of their expenditure, and in terms of revenue, did not work out. If one were to think back as to why the United Workers Party lost, remember there was a coalition of the Freedom Party and so forth, and so when the incoming government, which was the coalition government, came in, there were debts, and so their way of fixing those debts, believe it or not, they went to international organizations, including the IMF, and the IMF have what is called, you can help me, they have some measures, right, where they would tell you how to balance your economy.
Yes, that's
monetary measures. And so they would tell you to bring down your expenditure and increase your revenue. Bringing down your expenditure could mean firing teachers, firing nurses, yes. And to bring up your revenue would mean like the VAT, the value added tax, and also
all the taxes, yeah.
Yes. For example, someone who have a garage where you just work your garage as a young man, they will tell you, no, you have to pay taxes and so forth. And so this is the IMF way of doing that. In terms of losing businesses and we know we have lost too many businesses. I myself, Dion George, has personally tried to bring in universities. I've tried to bring in, and we had the financing. Not me. I'm just a son of a poor farmer. Poor doesn't mean that he was not valuable or with integrity, but we were not millionaires. But for everything he and my mom has done for me, I'm very thankful. But the government never took it. They said no. I don't understand why. And then, of course, we know that we have lost Ross. And I can give you a litany, an array of other companies who have lost from Dominica. And of course, you talk about other things concerning even youth employment. You went as far as speaking about having a sports sort of real agenda, policy. And I mean, what I can say about that is this could even bring one to tears, to see people like Alec Afaniers and Hodge and Miss Lafont, and how far the Dominicans have pushed themselves, given the lack of trading facilities. I mean, listen to me, sir. Some of my Salisbury companions will tell you Dion may not be the best cricketer ever, and I never claim to be, but I love cricket and I play cricket. Right now, I wear a brace in my foot because I went and played and I sprained my knee. Okay, good. My point is, see where Alec Afaniers has reached. See where Hodge, Lafont, and I can call other names. I mean, Shane Shillingford, and I don't want to go back in the history or the archives and tell you about Sebo or Irving or Norbert.
Like Roy Marshall, all these guys were good.
Yeah. But Roy should have made West Indies.
Oh, yeah, all these guys, yeah, was what they were.
Yeah. And so the view here is the embarrassment, sir, that we got. I am one who don't openly criticize governments, but as a scientist, I can look at constructive and criticism, and I can tell you, when you tell the ICC, and the ICC means the International Cricket Council, that you are available to host an international World Cup, and you're the government, then persons have to book their tickets, countries has to make plans, the cricketers and everybody else and their staff, and people around the world. And then you turn back and say, well, I'm so sorry, we have a lighting issue and we don't have enough light, and then they had to reschedule and send the games other places. I mean, Mr. Blanchard, what are you telling me? I ask you a question. What are you telling the world?
Exactly. You have no interest in sports. You have no interest in the young people. I mean, sports is not going anywhere in Dominica.
Or it could either be that, or you're crying for help. You're saying that you have accepted a contract to host an international World Cup, and by the way, would you have bring income to your sellers, persons selling, and to hotels and persons who have
drivers, taxi driver. I mean, you just name it.
Yeah,
bars, restaurants, just name it.
And so I think the ideas of Mr. Robinson Lui, I think they are good ideas. Moving forward, absolutely, it cannot happen in one evening, but there are many thoughts that comes here, and several of them we have just touched on. Rate of employment, some of these things the listening public can achieve for themselves. They can go to the IMF website and look at the growth indicators, the indices, and they can see where Dominica stands. And some of them are missing, by the way, but they can do their own analysis and to realize that we are really in a serious situation.
When we talk, one of the most critical things that we missed out on when that cricket was not held in Dominica is the opportunity for us to showcase our island on the international map. Let people know what Dominica is all about, what we have to offer. And I mean, all through all the cricket games, your country is actually being advertised, being promoted, and we missed that opportunity. And why? Because we have a government that is just indifferent about the upliftment of the country. Because Hurricane Maria was in 2017. And to tell me that 7 years after, you are still unprepared and you are unable to host a cricket game that is going to bring millions of dollars to your economy and to promote your country, we could not have held that game. It had to leave us and go elsewhere. That is unacceptable. And for that only, Dominicans should reject that government 100%. That is enough reason. That is enough reason.
Of course, I can concur with some of your views here, and I can also add to it the view that the democracies that we have in the Western world, listen to me carefully, that they have been influenced, believe it or not, by Europeans. There is a gentleman named John Locke who has what he called natural rights. And there's another gentleman named Thomas Jefferson. And he's the one who wrote what is called the Declaration of Independence. And Blanchard, this is what he said. He said, we hold this truth to be true, that all men, and you can help me, were created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that if a government were to abridge these rights, it is the responsibility of the people to overthrow that government and elect a new one. That is the author of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. And so to your point about Dominica, that if we had an opportunity to bring in employment, to bring in business, to showcase the island to the world, and that we were to miss it, I guess any normal thinking person would say, so what are they doing for us? There's another author, his name is Thomas Paine, who wrote a book called Common Sense. You don't have to be a lawyer or a scientist or rocket science to know that if a government is not working in your interest, then you should replace them. Replace them does not speak words of violence. Replace them does not speak words of disobedience, although one can submit to the view of civil disobedience. But it also speaks to coming out and do what is your citizenship rights, which is the right to protest, which I must say that the bus drivers and in most recent times, the truck drivers has demonstrated. And as far as I know, they were given what I would call a sweetie. They were given an answer.
Doc, maybe they got a toffee. Remember a toffee?
Yeah, but I don't like chocolate.
It's a sweet. Oh my God.
Yeah, but the point being is you have a right to petition the government. That's part of your rights, and that's part of our constitution as well. And that's how government works. Government works in four main ways. One is called pluralism, where a lot of different people come in and they fight for what they want. It's called lobbying. And the other one is called the bureaucratic way, where people like you who work in certain offices write papers and they contest their views. And the other one is what is called social movement, where people protest in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in the US, it happens in France, it happens in Guadeloupe and Martinique. And then the government hears. And the last one, which I certainly do not subscribe to, is the view of elitism, where you have plenty of money, you just pay and you get your thing done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think now we are at the stage where I think we are really at the social movement theory, where we are protesting and demanding. On that note, I will submit for your consideration that, Salisbury did it for their farm roads. You remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, all the people were saying is, these things are tearful,
Yeah.
They were saying,
it's a livelihood.
Fix the road.
It's a livelihood.
Please. And Mr. Blanchard, on the eve, when I tell you the eve, what does eve means? The day before.
Oh, what's before too?
An election.
Yeah.
They storm them. When I tell you storm,
Mm-hmm.
I have always said, and hear me clear, a government have every right to clear a protest if it impedes like transportation and so forth, But you don't arm yourself at a sleeping village. And that is the reason I joined Midcliffe, I really think we can do something about that. Thinking of our country, the people we have on our team, including me. But I don't know how the Caribbean or the world will look at what happened to Salisbury Day and think that's just going to pass like that. I don't want to mention what I thought happened, but what happened. People were shot, right?
Yeah, man. Of course, sir. Yeah, man. Take a shot. Yeah.
And there were old ladies that passed away after that. You know that, right?
Shortly after, yeah. Yeah.
And pregnant women. And my brother, you want me to cry or what? It was
serious,
bad.
Very serious. Yes, very, very serious. Yeah. This is happening.
And there are people now that would say, why they block the road? They block the road because they protest.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give any government a right to do that.
And Doc, that was the last resort, because these guys wrote. I mean, they had meetings. For years they have been begging and crying to fix the road. So the last resort was, look, you all have to listen to us now. We are going to do something so you can listen to us.
Anyway, Blanchard, I find me really boring, and nobody not calling.
Yeah, I've not seen any calls, so let me just play a little music and then let's hope we can get 1 or 2 calls. All right, let's do this. All right, folks, it's now 7:51. So we have just about 30 minutes. If you're going to call, please do this now. The lines are open. The numbers to call are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, digit number 616-4257, and overseas number 305-432-9624. Chance is 2024. Fight for justice. And that's what we need here, a fight for justice.
But if it was chance, you would see the policemen running, coming. Accident up in Virgin Lane, they're moving like a snail. Oh, they discover stalling. Ganja farmers going down, while abusers getting bail. Oh, wrong is wrong. Whether you rape or you kill, you fraud or you steal, wrong is wrong. We not asking for equality, justice with no equity is
Blanchard.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, while we're waiting for some interaction with the open public on any of the many issues that we brought forward this evening, in the prayer that the lady gave, I heard her mention the New World Order. And maybe tomorrow I might ask you for her number to ask her what is her interpretation of what is the New World Order.
Okay.
Yeah, because my interpretation is the view that there have been several empires in the world. Russia was one. When I say Russia, I mean the USSR.
So let me take this call.
Go ahead.
Good evening, caller. You're right on the queue.
Hello, good evening, Brother Blanchard, and good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm just calling to find out if there is no price control in Dominica. Every day you go, something is up, and your salaries and your pension is going down. So what are you going to do?
And that's one of the topics I just mentioned earlier on. One of the things that we should talk about, price control. I have it right there as part of my list. Price control, the high cost of living, and all of these things. We need to start to focus on these things and to bring these things to the fore, because it's happening and not much is being said about it. So you are right, and we need to
it's terrible. It cannot be worse than that.
Yeah, very bad. Yep, I agree.
Thank you, then.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, that caller point is well received.
That's the next call. Let's take this one. Good evening, caller. Right on cue.
Yes, Papa. Yeah, how you doing, Mr. Blanchard?
How are you doing? Great, man. What's up?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, man.
Let me big up your boy, Zah. I don't hear Zah. I hear you keep calling him out. Big up to you, Zah, if you're listening.
Yeah,
and to Dr. George.
Yes, good evening.
And all right, then. Good. So you heard me. You heard me loud and clear. Dr. George, I listen to you, and I like to listen to your version of what's taking place in America, but sometimes we vary slightly. But I'm not going to go into that. But all I'm going to say, the election went the way of Donald Trump because of money. Really, they didn't vote morals this time. So there's a big evangelical support that he gets, but their thing was money. And the table, what you call pocketbook issues and immigration, these were the two biggest things for them. That's what really got them that vote. But let me move on. I want to go to something you said earlier.
Anyway, my brother, is it okay if I just respond quickly to what you just said?
Listen, man, I'm listening.
Okay, good. I want to agree with you in some form of concurrence to the point that money always plays a part in elections. That's correct. What you would have to do is to look at how much did the Democrats raise in comparison to how much the Republican raised, and whether it was such a great discrepancy I would think that is point number one. And point number two, on the immigration issue, I think you're absolutely correct. There is something in the US, not just the US, in most developed countries, which is called nativism. And where natives believe that persons of the outside, who they call aliens, your foreign alien, that are taking benefits from them, or is stressing their healthcare system, or they're taking their jobs, etc., that they feel that that they don't want them. And so what he did, Donald Trump, he spoke toward that. He spoke toward the values and the beliefs and the mores of the American public, of what they, I wouldn't say believe, but what they are feeling. Man, if you look at people in New York, they will tell you that persons from overseas are coming there and getting benefits that they're not getting, right? And so he was able to speak.
Yes.
So I just wanted to comment that I'm not disagreeing with you, but we still.
No, it's not a disagreement. We are in a discussion, and it's very important that we have a discussion so we could put the pros and cons. So when you and I talk, if I talk to Blanchard, it's not argument. We must change the narrative of what language we use, because we're here to educate each other and educate the public. So it's not an argument. I take your line, and I just want to add to what you just said. The nativism is a big thing. It always has been, because it was there for the Irish, it was there for the Italian. The Anglo-Saxon always feel that they are the ones to control America, and they're the ones who were there to control America first than anybody else. So it's not a new thing. So it's good information we're talking. But since I don't have much time, let me go on to my next point.
Yeah, sure.
Earlier, I was listening to you, Blanchard, and I wanted to say something about what I saw on a video with the Chinese and the psychology of what people are watching and fall for the okie doke. That is a psychological play they're playing on people. Our people, especially, they know that a lot of us have the belief of that obia type thing, people doing saucy and them kind of thing. You see, let me tell you about these people. They are passive, aggressive type nature people. They don't say a whole lot to you about nothing. They won't talk to you. They live in your land and just totally disregard you like you don't exist. You are not part of their ethos, right? So you got to understand the kind of people you're dealing with. And all that is, that killing a chicken and spreading around, is to put some garbage in some people's head. All is psychological. And that I wanted to say to you. But my brother, you said another thing. I don't want you to accept defeat where Dominica is. I understand exactly what's taking place. I don't live there, and I sympathize with my people for living in this kind of nonsense. But sometimes we must understand what's taking place, because I listen to Miss Vidal all the time. You know, I love to hear that when you play it. But no time that we must accept defeat, that we cannot do nothing and the country is gone from us, because our ancestors' blood is in the soil of that land. So can't nobody else other than a Kalinago can come up to us and tell us anything or make us feel otherwise. So I don't want my people to ever believe that. There's always something you can do, and like Dr. George said, you have a right to protest. Constitutionally, you can protest the government, you can petition the government, you have a right to assemble, and these kind of things. But I just want to say one last thing before I go, because I've been listening all night long, and a lot of things come about, and I just want to see if I could drop another piece. You all talk about the college. Dr. George said he had some offers that he could have bring, and many other people had many offers to make Dominica better. But there is something we must understand about this two-faced snake, whatever you might want to call him, because I call him all and because that's what he is. He has done a great betrayal to the country and black people, his people. Okay? and sell the country out to people that don't look like you with no interest in moving you forward. They don't want no American institution in the country. Okay? Not they, is him. Everybody follow him and everybody afraid of him. Go along with it. He don't want no American institution. The only American institution that will come or the American take to are the ones like who is what you call assumed to have murdered that man Langwa. Okay, that kind of character that's the kind of character he'll take. But anything that is up above board and anything that progresses the country, anything that takes the people forward and make the people wise and be prosperous, he don't want it because it's a plan to do this to keep you under their feet. So when we speak of a person like that, we must know the personality we're dealing with because a leopard don't change its spot. Okay, that's the man, that's who he is, that's how he is. It's not gonna change. And the only change that is gonna come is the people have to make him change, step out of the way and let things forward, give the people space to breathe because it's not gonna change if it's left to him. Okay? If it's left to him, he's not going nowhere. And brothers, I'm listening. Dr. George, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And before we go further, I want to express my condolences to and also that of CCM to the family members and friends of Mr. Timothy Sims, that we were well known as Simsy, passed I think a few days ago, and also Papi Baptist, Leonard Papi Baptist, two great men. So we just want to express our condolences and our sympathies to the family and friends. Dr. Jot, I have a short audio from a pastor. I'm not going to call his name. I think everybody knows him. I just want to play it. It's just about 1 minute long, 1.5 minutes. And just have a few brief comments about it. I think I will be ought to because it's very disturbing and very distasteful to say the least. So let me just edit at this time.
We ask you, we pray, oh God, on the mountains and the seas, and you gave us the Honorable, the Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, the cream of the crop, la creme de la creme. And for that, oh God, we say thank you for all you keep giving us as leaders in this nation of people under God. Deliver us from the old mindsets and give us new minds, ones that coincide with all the new things that you are doing in our nation. Because, Father, we are seeing the new. From the airport to the roads, to the hotels, to the homes, we are seeing the new. Finally, Lord and Masters, deliver us from demonic operatives that gang up to stifle and to try their very best to destroy our way of life, even our CBI. We ask you, we pray, oh God.
Yes. And this pastor calls that a prayer. But let me just say that he was on the wrong platform. Okay, he ought to be a pastor and he should have been doing a nice, genuine prayer, but he was really on a political platform, so to speak. And, it is very disturbing, but that a man calls himself a pastor and for him to behave in such an ungodly manner. I mean, while the country is on the brink of collapse due to bad decisions, poor management, poor foresight, bad judgment, corruption, and above all, a slate of evil and wicked acts upon the citizens of this country by a selfish, greedy, self-serving one-man government, we have the likes of this pastor who refers to Roosevelt's carrot as cream of the crop and la creme de la creme. Can you imagine that? So you understand where we are and why we are where we are today. You understand that? When so-called men of God serve, they choose to serve man rather than God. Has he, this guy, this pastor, has he taken the time to ask a few questions about the allegations made by the Prime Minister, about the Prime Minister? Has he read the Al Jazeera reports in Dominica? And for those of you who does not know about Al Jazeera, it is really a credible global news network, an independent and in-depth journalism and news coverage. That's what they do. Have you read that report? That damning report about the same la creme de creme that is referring to. Has he read that report? Did he take time off to talk to the likes of Mr. Lennox Linton and Dr. Thompson Fountain and others who has been asking for transparency and accountability in the governance of this country? Have you questioned his little God about the amount of unexplained wealth he has amassed over the years? Properties owed locally and internationally? Have you done that? Isn't that pastor aware of the billions of dollars outside of a treasury, and it is controlled by a foreigner? Has he not heard about the fertilizer and bean bubble in the past? Is he not aware of the present state of the economy and the government's inability to service the country's debts? So why would he spew such garbage out of his mouth and call it a prayer? Why? But I'll say one thing to this pastor. Eh? God is really good, you know. God is really good. He allows us to hang ourselves, you know. He gives us that choice to do what we want to do. But I'm saying to you, that pastor, whatever your name is, unless you turn around in genuine repentance, something is coming your way. Because you cannot be that wicked and evil to make that statement and call it a prayer. Doctor, do you have your thoughts on that?
Mr. Blanchard, I'm so happy that before we start any program, there is a notice that says that the opinion is not of QFM. Is your opinion, but I'm going to share my opinion. And please allow me. Yes. Yeah. And my opinion is, first of all, because he's a pastor, something comes to my mind that I will share. And what I will share is this. There were two disciples of Christ. I'm not a pastor like him, so I cannot call their name off my head. But I think it was, I don't want to say if I'm wrong, but I think it was Peter and John. If you hear a cough in the background, that's my mom. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. And they asked Jesus, when we get to glory, who would you have next to you? You know, for position. And but they say, one says, put me at your right hand. The other one says, put me at the left. Oh, how the story goes. Every priest and pastor listening knows the story. And Jesus said, do you know what you're asking me? First of all, that's not my call. That's the call of my Father. And secondly, can you drink the cup that I have to drink? Can you go through what I have to go through before you ask me what you're asking me? Because they were there in a group and someone wants to push yourself ahead. Now, when that pastor speak what he spoke, what he talked about, he mentioned several things I took note, and that's the first time I'm listening to it. He mentioned CBI. Mr. Blanchard, I'm not against CBI. No. Maybe every country, including the US, has a foreign investment program. Of course they do. The question that Dominicans are asking is, how is it run?
That's all.
And the transparency about the financing of it. and whether there are monies that have not come into the account where it should belong. These are the fundamental questions, right? Which are genuine questions. The other thing he talked about is airport and hotels. These are infrastructure, and one would submit to infrastructures are good. But in political science, which is political economy, there is the view of superstructure. What are the processes within the hospital? What are the processes in terms of the creation of the infrastructure, and whether or not it brings bread and monies to the citizens to who you say you created for? And these are the fundamental questions. And so, again, I started in response to the pastor question, can you drink the cup that I drink? And when you're asking for power, God, Jesus says, that's not for me to do, that's for God to do. So everybody can pray. I just pray a lot. Any wife I have had in my life, several, they will tell you that Dion prays a lot, period. Because people are too selfish. Look at the US, government change. People would think Kamala was a nice person. People would think, for example, Biden, well, he fell sick, he fell ill, right? But government changes over time. Nobody hold power forever. I don't know how article you are on the platform where you sit, what they call the console.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a song where it says, what's his name? Short Shirt from Antigua, where he says something, that government must fall. My brother.
Never the song there.
Yeah, but essentially,
I think it's the writing on the wall.
Yeah. Essentially, what I'm saying is, you don't hope for the failure of your government. You really want them to do well, and that's just my view. But if it comes to a point where it's been several years, I stick to my scholarship, which is people like John Locke and Thomas Jefferson and Paine, that says that if a government is not in the interest of its own local people, then the population should really look at changing it in a peaceful way. And that's my view. I think Dominica is at that point. What do you think?
Yes, I think so as well. We are in a critical stage at this time, Doc, and the people have to do something about it. I see someone making a brief comment there. Dr. Martin Luther King was a pastor, and he also spoke about politics. Sir, madam, whoever you are, I think you're missing the point. We are not saying that the pastor can't speak about politics. We are saying the pastor should not call evil good. Simple as that. A pastor should not call evil good, because the pastor that made those comments, he lives in Dominica and he knows exactly what is going on. For him to refer to the prime minister,
we never said that the pastor cannot talk about politics.
Exactly. So he's missing the point. Whoever person is there, I'm missing the point. Of course you can talk about politics, but you can't call evil good and call good evil, because you're a man of God. You ought to speak truth to power at all times and say things as they are. Furthermore, he was there to say a prayer, and he politicized the prayer. Now you have persons in that gathering that are both labor rights and different.
If I was the pastor, which I am not, I would have prayed for the good of Dominica.
Exactly.
All people.
Yes, you can pray for the prime minister. You can ask God to bless
absolutely
him.
Yes.
You can say all of these things. You pray for the opposition and these things, but you don't come with this nonsense about cream of the crop and the cream and
the Quemla.
This is nonsense.
Quemla the Quem.
Good evening, caller. You're right on cue.
Mr. long time I don't hear you.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, what we were speaking about is two brothers in some very deep, and they were asking Jesus that they look to put this speak on one on the left and one on the right. He told them that they keep the cup that is good, they take it. But what he was referring to, and then he told them that you have to be a servant, because he said that the master did not come to serve. He did not come to public to serve him. He came from to serve people. So he was referring to them, for you to be a great person, you ought to come to serve, not for people to serve you.
Right.
And this pastor is talking about is a whole mess. I can tell him he's a whole mess. He came from the Christian church. From there, they help him, feed him, throw him, send him to school, everything. While in the church, some blessing occurs, he leave and he go. He's a whole mess. Okay. So he's looking for a place to place himself. So that is what happened. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Well done, caller.
Thank you very much. Caller to 758. Doc, I think that is the song you're talking about.
Yes. That's a nice song.
Your country needs you.
Yeah.
Hope you realize our government is abusing its power and authority, and it is having a dirty effect on the whole country. It is time for us to take a stand. After all, this is our native land. That is why I came back to sin, to expose the wicked things that are perpetrating. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is there.
All right, we are on the home stretch now.
And
good evening, caller. Right on cue.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Those pastors there are depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. I know you're not pastors, so don't worry about them.
All right.
They have the calling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Problems, and just assure us the sun will rise. This government must fall.
And Blanchard.
Yeah, man. Well,
I will leave you with one last thought. You know, persons who are citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica that may not be ascribed to a particular party, that they too may love the country, maybe even more than those that ascribe to the incumbent.
Yep.
Because they want the best for their country.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a country? A country is the population, the territory, our sovereignty. And so when we say our sovereignty are being sold without, with little
no
accountability, yeah. And when we see that where projects are happening, and from what I am hearing, bus drivers, truckers, constructors are not getting a fair share, and if I don't want to speak hypothetical, but it's the reality. If that's the situation,
it is.
Yeah, I believe that the people of the nation who love their country should really petition the government and say that we are part of this country too. And even if we do not support you, you don't have to hurt us. And so what they did to Salisbury for asking about fixing the roads and then blocking the road to make a statement, and then you get an army from the Caribbean and you do that to a sleeping village. The pastor prayed. I can pray too, and I have priest friends who prays too. And
let's take this caller.
Yeah, go ahead.
A while now. Good evening, caller. You're right on cue.
Hey, good evening to you, John.
Hey, good evening
to your,
good evening.
Again, I really want to thank you for this program. Dr. Dion, while I respect your idea with regard to why the Democrat was kicked out of office, with regard to raise at a particular that the economy, etc. Also, you have to really realize right now, wrong have become right and right become wrong, because I'm not too sure. I don't know where else in the world that Donald Trump would even be able to run. But it's just crazy what's going on. And with regards to that comment by this pastor, my brother, let me tell you, there are a lot of false prophets in the world. So don't pay these guys no mind. I will not even give that airplay because these guys, they are false prophets, and we know what false prophets are. We know how, So hey, it is what it is, man. So
yeah, but people must know them, eh?
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with the result, but hey, we have to accept it and just.
It is what it is. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take it easy, bro.
All right, Dr. Dion, your closing comments is now 2 minutes after your 8 o'clock.
Well, thank you so much again, Mr. Blanchard, for your invitation. I really appreciate it. I've always said it gives us a voice where we can share our views. Again, our views are such that everyone may not agree, but even if we were to share an alternative view, but people can see the facts, if it is facts, from what we are saying. And so tonight we touched on the American election. We had a good synopsis.
Very good.
Over what it was. We touched on religion. We touched on race and economics.
Yeah.
I brought up some other points about the Caribbean region, and perhaps in the future we can touch on it. I touched about St. Thomas, Hawaii, and Mexico and Puerto Rico, how the U.S. was able to glean those territories. But maybe that's a discussion for another time. But then there is implications for the Caribbean as well, including our own country. And then, of course, they often spoke about Cuba. I mentioned something called the Platt Agreement. And for those listening, they can Google it. It happened in 1901, where the U.S. promised to protect Cuba. And then they developed Guantanamo Bay and several other things we spoke about. And then we end up into discussing the economics and the socio-economics of Dominica, and taxes, inflation, and a few folks were able to call in and give their views. Some agreed with us and some disagreed slightly. But I think the program is a program that I would say educates. I think it enlightens, and it gives the public a chance to interact with what we are discussing here.
Absolutely. And that's exactly the purpose of this program, is to educate the people and to get an interaction, to have a discussion of the current issues. You can go back in history, it can be political, it can be religion, whatever it is, and let's just discuss, all right? We are not giving any mepui, we are not calling anybody names, we are just saying things as they are. All right, Doc, we have to pull the curtains down. It's now 5 minutes after the 8 o'clock, and we have to get out of the people's studio. So thanks a lot for coming in, Mr. David Joseph could not come in tonight because he's still on the road. He sent a message to say he's still on the road. Well, he did tell me earlier on that it's going to be a bit tight, but he may be able to come in for a few minutes towards the end of the program, but that also was not possible because he's still busy at work, getting from work to home. All right, Brother David, so take care on the road. Make sure you will get home safely. And Dr. Dion, once again, thank you. And we are hoping to be back here on the 29th. Well, of course, unless if somebody can sponsor the program next week, that's fine. But
yeah, but on that note, though, Mr. Blanchard, I think you are very humble. But I know you said that CCM have several members. You should encourage them to contribute, even if it's of $5.
Well, Doc, we'll discuss that privately, but that is something I've been doing. I've been sending messages in the group chat and so on, and trying to get the other members to contribute, and that has been a bit of a problem. But we need to have a meeting very shortly so we can discuss those things, try to raise some funds, try to get some sponsors for the program going forward, so we could get back to our weekly program. But for now, we have it bi-weekly.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. And you folks out there, take care. I'm seeing we're having a little rainfall tonight, so be careful on the road. Enjoy your night, and of course, your weekend. May God bless you, and good evening. I gone now.
Open up your eyes. Your country needs you. Hope you realize
Our government is abusing its power and authority, and it is having adverse effects on the whole country. It is time for us to take a stand. After all, this is our native land. That is why I came back to sing, to expose the wicked things that are perpetrating. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is the TNT. The purpose is government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All the scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. Our Prime Minister, like a dictator. If with him you don't agree, you can't progress in your country. Our government has no respect for the business community. No dialogue, they only talk in lies in the street. Taxing the poor ones who have no money, while they're living luxury. As a family and the Prime Minister, and your boys think down on Tiga. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is the TNT. The purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All the scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. Unprecedented corruption rampant throughout the island, and victimization to those who express dissatisfaction with the way this government squandering this country's revenue, accepting no accountability for the underhand things they does do, ostracizing those who lay their own, and rewarding their friends some with knifes. Hurricane mash up the play at Alcian. I oppose them, so they come and take back the land. It is only time for the self-destruct. Greed and power is the TNT. Their purpose in government was for the bucks. They don't really care about this country. All the scheming, conniving plans have caught up with them. They are facing insurmountable problems, and just as sure as the sun will rise, this government must fall. The handwriting is on the wall. I am the boss